Hello guys, it's me here. Today we're going to do a review on a monster that not too many people has done reviews on, which is interesting because he's quite infamous now, but they just don't always do reviews on him. Today's review is on another Choju from the Ultraman Ace series. This one being Barabas, or Barbara, Baraba, just Baraba. I don't know why I call him Barbara, but that's just his name. Now, this monster is, like I said, a Choju, and actually, if you saw my previous video, he's also, he's basically based on the 500 series Spark Doll Baraba, but he's a knockoff because he was from AliExpress, and the details are kind of, like, interesting. But, yeah. So, he was a monster that was, like, and I didn't know too much about this, was actually a mix between a space monster and a butterfly, specifically a larvae of a swallowtail butterfly, which are those butterflies that are black and blue, or they have like those creepy, interesting looking patterns, whatever. He's basically based on a butterfly, which is kind of understandable because if you look at him, he has like these weird wing things, which actually in the newer ones, they're a lot more spread out, like they look more like wings, but we'll get into that later. And his subtitle name, now get ready for this, is known as the Hitman Choju, or the Killer Choju. Some people would call him a Sicario Choju or an Assassinator Choju, but he's mostly called the Hitman Choju or Hitman Terrible Monster, which is shocking because for those who are interested in those crazy shows with like the mafias or whatever that is, he probably goes well with those, and maybe one day you just use a monster like this to defeat everyone, but I'm not going to explain this because I'm not going to. Now anyways, the history for this figure, we're going to get onto the history real quick. He appeared in Ultraman Ace in, I think it was from episode, I don't know if it was from episode 13 or to 14 or 12, I don't remember. He appeared in basically a two-parter. It's not like it was kind of like with the Doragori one, but it was actually a lot scarier and more creepier. I'm not going to explain too much about it because it's about, like, Yapul and Ace Killer and the Ultra Brothers. I'm just going to give the history to this monster here. He appeared out of nowhere in, like, an invisible glimpse way while it was, like, dark. And he killed this innocent teenager who was brothers with this small kid who was like, I think 9 years old or something. It was quite sad that he killed him by just using his arrow thing or his hook thing and just swinged because he was in a booth, a phone booth, and just smashed him to the ground and he died. So the young kid was like very angry because he killed him, and obviously they wanted to do something about it to where they wanted to do justice. But before they did justice, and I'm not gonna, you know what, I'm just gonna give the history like I said. So basically Ultraman Ace was going to Planet Goliath and then came back from it, like he went to Earth to fight Baraba because he was in a radioactive rain. At first the battle seems to be doing well, and at first Ultraman Ace and everyone else thought that he got killed, but then he just instantly got up and just literally was using his flashing horn and just paralyzed Ace. And then when Ace grabbed because he launched it, he grabbed the sword and he got incredibly scared and he was like he just went backwards really fast. And then he was fighting with the axe, and eventually when they were fighting, there was this strange barrier that was like flashing, and that's when Yapul, or Ace Killer, it was actually Yapul the entire time. I thought it was Ace Killer, but it was actually Yapul. They're just both evil. He said to Ultraman Ace and everyone, and it was a disgusting plot that, and this, like I said, this plot is disgusting, or this, and actually I don't know if I said this, This episode that he appears in is just quite messed up, both episodes. And I can't say why it's messed up, but you'll just have to go because it's too long for it. But I'm just going to give you the history of this one, obviously, because I don't have Ace Killer or Yapul. He basically said to Ultraman Ace and everyone else that if he kills Barabas, his 5 brothers who were crucified would be killed at the same time. Which is just insanely evil. It's like, and because of this issue, Ultraman Ace actually had to give up the fight and let the thing destroy everything, which was just awful. And you can just blame Yapul about that, because Yapul is just, he's an evil mastermind man. Like, I mean, some people even say that he's probably Satan, or he has the powers of Satan. And he's quite cruel, and he does a lot of cruel things also. But anyways, yeah. So, after that 2-parter issue, he appeared in the second episode, which was a part 2, to where he was destroying the city again, causing trouble like all the other Chojus. Eventually, Ultraman Ace, after defeating Ace Killer in a way that was just, I don't even know why, I don't know why, but it's just, I'm not going to explain how he got defeated. At first, Barabas and him were fighting like normal, monster fights. Eventually, he did something crazy to where at first he launched the sword back, or he launched the sword, and then he took it and just threw it at him to where he got stabbed, and when he ran behind him, he hit him in the back to where his eyes just lodged out, and this is what he did. Get ready for this. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He went insane in a very painful way because he got lodged, his eyes got lodged, and he even said in the Wikipedia that it was actually a brutality death of Baraba. So then there was a part where he made the thing come out of the hand. It was very kind of weird. It was like, it had like a groove. He made the thing, it's like the thing just went up in the air. He grabbed the axe hand, or axe metal weapon, and was charging at it in a way that while he was running, he passed him and cut the head off, and eventually he got decapitated and died. And everyone was happy, even the child was happy, because this monster, obviously he's evil. He's literally a hitman, like, sent out to kill, which I kind of find ironic, because pretty much all the Chojus are like hitmans. They're sent out to kill, not sent out in a way that they just came out of nowhere. And you can blame Yapul about that, because he's evil. But yeah, that's the first part of, that was like the history of it. He didn't appear again in Ultraman Taro. Like, the only thing that he appeared in Ultraman Taro was actually his hands, because later, or years later, he became a fusion of Tyrant. It looks a little bit different because for some reason his arms are like swapped to where his hand is like on the left side or right side. But I'm just giving you an example, and obviously the scaling is not fantastic, but I'll explain that later. Yeah. And obviously he would make multiple appearances, not like on his own, but like with Tyrant's hands. But eventually he did have a show on his own in one of the newer Ultramans, which was, I believe, Ultraman Z. As just, and actually you'll be freaked out about this, and I don't know if it's him talking or Yapul. Barabas seems to be talking to them, which I just find really weird, and it's like a creepy demonic voice, like, you can imagine what he would say to the Ultraman. You'll have to watch the episode, it's really weird. Like with the previous attacks, he's just doing his Choju attacks where he's just destroying the city. He seems to have new powers in that one for some reason, but we'll explain that later quickly. He basically was fighting, and it was actually a pretty good battle. He was fighting Ultraman Ace and Ultraman Z. And actually, before I mention that, he actually defeated Windom and King Joe, which I find very shocking because it's like these two monsters were like dangerous, but it's like he was able to defeat them on his own. And that's how you know how powerful these Chojus are. But anyways, yeah, he defeated them, and after that, he was about, like, and Ultraman Z was about to get stabbed by the sword that he was sending out to, but it got deflected by Ultraman Ace's ball thing, which, well, that's when he appeared, like magic. They both had a tag battle to where they were both fighting the monster. At first they were struggling, but eventually they did get a good upper hand, and eventually they used this type of ray to where it was so powerful that his eyes were lodging out and he exploded to smithereens, and his dagger sword just went to the ground like a grave thing. And he got defeated in that one, and that's all we've seen so far with Barabas. So kind of like with all the other Chojus, he did make appearances in the newer series, which I just find very nice. So, yeah, that's Barabas. Now, for the articulation, we'll get onto the details later, but for the articulation, this is literally a knockoff version of the Spark Doll Barabas. So, his arms literally rotate, like with the real McCoy. I don't know why this one seems to be, like, rotating loosely, but it doesn't fall out or anything. But yeah, his arms can rotate, so you can just pose them and you can use them to like bash people with this and stuff like that. Too bad his sword thing, which actually shoots out like a missile, kind of like with Vakashim, does not move or anything, but that's okay. It's a vinyl figure, I mean, what do you expect? And so as this thing doesn't shoot out either. His torso can rotate 360 degrees, and it's not on a glue seal. And don't worry, because it's like a very strong type of attachment. He is like a soft vinyl figure, so just want to let you know. For some reason, the way how he squishes is just kind of weird, but he is soft vinyl. And the tail can also rotate 360 degrees as well, which is good because he uses it to attack and stuff, especially with this little piece here, which I don't know why it's painted, but it's not supposed to. So it's like 4 points of articulation, which is not bad for a figure like this, even though he's a Spark Doll. But it's a knockoff one. Now let's get on to the details. The details are fantastic, considering it's a copy. I mean, it does look a little bit messy, but the way, like, the paint jobs they use is not bad. I like how on the fin things, or these wing things, they were painted gray, and actually, despite his because he's based on a butterfly, he looks more like a generic dinosaur that has his hands chopped off to make, like, a killer, like, it just looks more like a mutated dinosaur or something. For some reason, he has one nostril, but it's okay. His, details, like on the vein things, pretty good. His scale things are nice. He kind of looks more like a water creature, but he doesn't go in the water. However, he does go in the rain. Yeah, I like how the dagger is nicely detailed. The only problem about the dagger is that it's actually kind of swapped backwards. Unless if there was a time where it was like that, I don't know, because his thing is actually supposed to be backwards, like it's like pointing upwards. It's you'll have to look at it carefully, but even as a dagger it looks okay anyways, and it doesn't look terrible, so that's okay. I like how the tail, it's like detailed and stuff, so overall the details on it are pretty good for a figure, although there are parts of it that are not always painted, but that's okay. But so far, he's pretty good, considering being a knockoff of the Spark Doll one. Now, for the sizing. Let's scale him up with Hanzagirin, who I will do a review on shortly. Unfortunately, the scaling, actually, the scaling doesn't look bad. I thought it looked terrible, but it's not too bad, because most of the time he's always in this position to where he's like in a downward pose, so this isn't that terrible. So I think the scaling, and remember, this is a Choju, by the way, so that's okay. What about King Crab, who is also another Choju, and a knockoff of the Spark Doll one? This is not very good, unfortunately. He's supposed to be a lot bigger, because he's 80 meters, but this is not correct, unfortunately. How about a Godzilla figure? He's quite big, but if you're, like, depending of the size of him you're scaling him to, because he's actually, this one here is 100, this is a pretty good scaling, actually, because in reality, Barabas is actually, like, because up here would probably be 80 and 90, and then it'd be 100 here, so this is a perfect scaling. So, going with Godzilla is perfect, even though he, you would have had wish he's taller, but it's okay. I do have a smaller Godzilla, which, if I scale him down to 50, he looks pretty good. Although I do think that maybe sometimes he should be a little bit bigger, but this is okay. You could do a video called Godzilla versus the Hitman Choju Baraba. That'd be pretty cool. Or how about Naronga? The scale is perfect as well. Pretty good, considering because he's like a Spark Doll, they don't always scale up well. How about Jumbo King? Jumbo King is fantastic. He's 50 meters, or like 59 meters, and he's 70 Barabas, so that's perfect. How about, I'm not going to do with Tyrant because you already saw the scale, it didn't go so well. Tyrant is 62 meters, and Barabas is actually 70. How about King Ghidorah? I think this is the GMK one, but no matter which King Ghidorah you use, it actually goes pretty good. King Ghidorah is quite a large monster, so I think the scaling of it goes good. You can either make them, I don't know, team up or something, or you could just do a video of King Ghidorah versus Barabas, or whatever. How about Sedora? Since Sedora has like a similar head structure, I don't know. I think he should be like a little bit. I don't remember the scaling of Sedora, if I'm being honest, but it's fine. I'll do a review on him eventually. Oh, this is what the Spark Dolls would usually feature. They would have like this hexagon shape, but on this one it's not there, unfortunately, because it's a knockoff. But it does look good anyways, considering a knockoff. How about Vakashim? Since they are both Chojus and they have the wacky hands. This is not very good. He's supposed to be 65 and the other one is 70, so this is not correct. How about Brocken? Well, if you're trying to do it in a way that you're counting the sword, he doesn't look too bad with the sword, but in reality, Barabas should actually be a lot bigger. Because he is 70-something meters, and he is 63 meters, so this is not good scaling. What about an Ultra? Here's Ultraman Jack. I don't have Ultraman Ace, but he's the closest. Plus, he was in the same year in the 70s. This is not very good, like with all the other ones. He's supposed to be bigger, but, I mean, this is, and keep in mind, this is a 500 one. This is not like a larger one or anything. So, yeah. So the scaling is not very good. How about a Rhedosaurus? Well, I'm not so sure about the Rhedosaurus, but it doesn't matter. I mean, even then, he actually still looks good as a scaling, so Rhedosaurus is okay. How about Gamora, who is also a well-known monster in the series. Actually, I'm gonna do Red King first. This is not okay. The sizing is just wrong. He's 40 meters. However, he was part of the Tyrant family, so that's something. I forgot to mention, some of these monsters were from the Tyrant family, but unfortunately, even the scaling of them is not correct, which is just upsetting. But what can you do? Here's King Kong. King Kong is perfect. How about Gamora? Nope, not very good either. Pretty much all of these creatures are not always good scaling, unfortunately. What about a lobster, or I call it Ebria? Nope, Well, actually, it's good. I got that wrong. What about a Kraken? Kraken is good. Depends on the scale. How about some airliner jets? I'm not going to use some of the others. They're too big. Yup, it looks okay. Here's a smaller one. That looks good as well. So far, some airplanes go well with it, others don't. I think it's the airplanes that look very good with these monsters. Like, here's these fighter jets. They were actually from a Transformers micro set, but they look very good as just fighting jets or anything. So it's just fantastic in my opinion. How about a helicopter? It works. Wow. That's actually why I also use Micro Machines when it comes to Godzilla sets, because they are a lot smaller and they're perfect to scale, which is just nice. Here's Paragon, another four-legged creature, except he's not a Choju. I think he's supposed to be bigger, but what are you gonna do? So yeah. So far, this figure is actually pretty good, even though he's a knockoff. Even though the sizing is sometimes terrible, I would actually give him a 10 out of 10 because most of the scaling he works well with are actually pretty good. It's just some figures don't always scale well with that, but you can get over that. So overall, I would give him a 10 out of 10. Paint job is good, articulation is good, scaling is half-assed, but it's mostly good, because most of the monsters he scaled with were actually accurate, but then some other ones didn't go well properly, but that's okay. I mean, he is an interesting and pretty cool looking monster, and he's not like your regular ones. He has like this crazy looking hand, and actually I forgot to mention this. If you think he's a monster that just goes well with your Vakashim, or, well, if you think he goes well with your Choju collection because he's from Ultraman Ace and you want to collect, like, let's say some of the Chojus or monsters, go ahead and pick him up. He is a must-have figure, and actually I decided, because nowadays, because of the Spark Doll issue, people are running out of Spark Dolls, unfortunately, which means that that there's no more. It's like they're running out of Spark Dolls, or the Spark Dolls are just disappearing in a way that they're no longer the norm, or they just don't exist anymore, which is just sad, unfortunately. But I mean, what do you expect? I mean, not everyone didn't even like Spark Dolls anyways, but there were some Spark Dolls that were okay anyways. So I mean, if you can't get the real versions of these, but you want to get because they're too expensive or they're just too rare or whatever, I would recommend ordering AliExpress. Just be careful that when you order them, they're just like, they're actually the real figures and they're not like fakes or anything. If you think he's a monster, like if you think Barabas is a monster that goes well with those crazy monsters with like the killer hands, or he goes well with your Chojus, go ahead and pick him up. If you think he also goes well with monsters like Gigan or Megalon, go ahead and pick him up as well. Otherwise, and I mean, if you even like stuff to where, like the Mafia thing or whatever, not like actual Mafia, but if you're like a fan of, like, let's say movies or whatever, and you want something that kind of gives you those, like, you can go ahead and pick this monster up. Other than that, he's pretty cool, and like I said, he's a must-have, so if you see him in AliExpress, I recommend picking him up, and if you have the real version, I recommend picking it up as well. It was very nice doing a review on this. He was actually one of my favorite monsters, even though his name is just kind of, like, it's actually called Baraba or Barabas, but some people call him Barbara, like Hanna-Barbera, like that type of thing, but he is a must-have. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye. I am the Hitman monster. Get ready for my attack.